I was doing some integration against the various collections in the Lootverse, and for user interface, I'm using like the NFT collection icon, and I noticed that More Loot doesn't have an icon, and I'm like, wait, I've never seen a collection without an icon before. I didn't even know it was possible. So I'm like, okay, I'll just draw a few variations and start the conversation. I got a little bit of feedback, but I wanted to take the two that I think are the most promising, and perhaps we do a poll, And also, I'd like to hear from you guys, like, how can we get this rolling or, implemented? Because I don't really know that part. So let me post here in general chat. Okay, so these are the two icons that I think have the most potential. And in the thread, there's different variations as well. If somebody has opinions about that, you can give feedback in the thread. And then in the straw poll, we can. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the More Loot in parentheses or the M Loot as it is commonly referred? And that way, we can kind of get a feeling for the general opinion.
Did you try mloot with not capitalized M?
Yes, check the thread.
Oh, okay.
This is probably a jump too big, but I'm curious if you guys have a thought about kind of the purpose of mloot. Because ideally, the iconography and the visuals and the system around it reflects the purpose of it. Anybody have an opinion about kind of the purpose, the role that mloot can play? Maybe like a vision for mloot in some ways? That's obviously a big question to kick us off, but curious if anyone has any thoughts.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I see mloot kind of like the silver, where loot bags are the gold and mloot is the silver, and then I think there's a third layer, which is the free-to-play players. In the end, they just don't have any of them.
The synthetic.
Yeah, and there's also the synthetic loot, that's true, but that's not mintable. Yeah, so gold, silver, so it's almost like tiers. We've talked about it before also in the context of lore, that we talked about the idea that the loot bags kind of came first and were discovered across the realms, and then over the course of history, millions of more items were either emitted from those bags or created by the adventurers, and then through time and wars and peace and societies rising and falling, that they've all just kind of gotten like buried in the dust. And every time we mint one, it's almost like we're archaeologists picking through the dirt, finding this loot bag that's underground and pulling it up to inspect it and learn its history and story. Because as it stands, I think it's like 1.3 million mloot bags, and I want to say maybe 300,000 have been minted, 250,000 have been minted, something in that order of magnitude. But that does mean that there's still a million mloot bags hidden under the ground, buried under layers of ruin. Not to say that there's a purpose in there, but it's kind of cool to put some lore around it. I wonder if we could reflect that concept through some iconography too.
It seems like a large supply at this point, but at some inflection point, it's going to disappear, right? There's going to be a rush for mloot, I think, at one point. Maybe a couple of years from now. Because 1 million is not that much. There's 1 billion gamers in the world.
Well, I'll tell you, I went on an mloot spree back in the summer, right as we had discovered the mages, hunters, warriors concept and the greatness levels and rankings of the bags and the items. We did a bunch of analysis and tried to identify all of the pure hunter item bags or pure mage bags. And I went on a rampage minting mloot bags, but it was during the height of crazy gas at 100 V200. So despite mloot being free, it was a expensive endeavor. But good to see gas so low again.
Well, that's kind of it for me. I think we can move on and at the end, check again. I also have to go at 10.
Cool. I think this will be a pretty short one. For folks who just joined, welcome. This is Loot Town Square. What do you think, Andrew?
21. I think.
21?
I think, yeah.
Wow. GM. Loot Town Square 21. We don't have much of an agenda today. Andrew and I, like maybe a month ago, after doing, 6-7 months of every week pulling together an agenda, doing a bunch of choreography in the background to get people set up, we said, what if we try to just let people self-organize? And it's been kind of working so far, but if anybody wants to help, please do. Just a reminder to everyone, the Call Agendas channel, which is the channel right above the Town Square Voice channel, has a link to a Notion that's the open agenda for the week ahead, editable by anyone on the internet. So please be kind to the form. Don't troll us too much. But it's open for us. This is a self-organized community. Again, there's no team. There's no official roadmap. There's no official company behind Loot. It is what we dream it to be, and it is what we collectively create out of it. So this weekly agenda is sort of similar to that. We probably, Andrew and I, will go back to a little bit more quiet choreography in the background, just because I think these things work better when we have people teed up and the time scheduled and a little bit more of a scheduled purpose. It was just a lot of work. I calculated the other day, I probably put 1,000 hours into Loot in the past 9 months. And while it's fun to put life on hold sometimes, we also have other things going on. So not that much. We're definitely deep in the Loot world, Andrew. You and me these days, and many of us, I think, have in some ways made Loot a full-time thing we're working on in the universe. Anyway, all that to say, we'd love some support in scheduling these, but also we'll probably pick up the mantle again to help.
Perhaps there's a hybrid there where, we have this call agendas. I think it's really nice. And every week we could have at least one of the major projects kind of being a keynote or whatever.
Yeah, that's how we were doing it before. We were trying to go in the background and say, hey, whatever. There's probably 25 major Loot projects now, but in all sorts of time zones and things. So sometimes we would change the time around to make sense for people, and we do polls of what time would work for multiple different types of people. But we'll go back to that a little bit. Andrew and I have, I'd say we've done this experiment. Hey, everyone showed up, but we don't have much to talk about today. Stellaris, you do have a formal presentation, though, so why don't we kick it to Stellaris? And then if there's anybody else who has thoughts, ideas, things you want to chat about, it's wide open forum today.
I was actually gonna do an announcement with someone else, but I assumed held up by responsibilities or kind of busy right now. So I just kind of informally announce this and perhaps announce it in detail on social media. And maybe in the next talk about. So basically, we have been chatting up with Wipner, or the subsidiary, the Glimmering, and we've been kind of organizing a bit of pretty and nifty fun, and we've also been coordinating different kinds of initiatives. And what we're gonna do now is kind of hold a Hyperverse collab on our Discord where they will host they would actually host a kind of the glimmering campaign, kind of meshed up with kind of combined with Lootverse Law. So that is kind of what we're working on now, and more information on that later. We'll kind of announce what we're doing, and this is honestly the idea of having play-by-post or little one shot from Hyperverse projects. The idea behind doing that is so that we could facilitate we could facilitate interactive storytelling where people can actively participate in TTRPGs or of different forms in different ways to build their characters, build their backstory, maybe just engage in active storytelling. The advantage of play by post or play by forum or play by chat is that players can actually spend the time writing or focusing on storytelling and writing as opposed to active TTRPG sessions where things tend to take more of a Monty Python kind of way because you're forced to think on your foot. You're forced to think on the fly, and most things eventually kind of end up taking a Monty Python kind of thing, which is not bad actually. But I think it would be really cool to organize play by post or play by forums on Discord or wherever else, because that would really tie in with the goals and ambitions we have for Open Quill as well. So yeah, more on that later. I'll do some more announcement as well. If you guys are interested, you can actually DM me, or you can ask about it on the loot channel as well, and I'll try to answer them. Yeah, that's about it for now.
So Lars, that's exciting. I'm pro sort of tabletop leadership. That's pretty fascinating. Really, I'm really curious to see how it comes to life, see how your vision manifests.
Yeah,
Anybody? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to throw a few thoughts on there. We did a Call the Banners secret quest with Stellaris after our last version, and I was really surprised by how interesting and deep the D&D community is. It just kind of escaped me for most of my life for some reason, but it's pretty cool. And so what Stellaris is doing is pretty neat because the community is absolutely massive. So if we can loot snipe some of those guys and girls into the community, it's a pretty big win. And Stellaris is really, really good at what he does. It was a lot of fun. Rule can chime in on that too. But anyway, it's been fun working with him in the background on some of those things. So don't sleep on the tabletop because it's pretty cool.
Thank you. So yeah, we would actually announce these things as we go along. It's not just the play by post that we're doing. It's also one shot and hyperverse collabs as well. For those of you that do not know, play by post actually refers to a form of Dungeons and Dragons that people used to play back then when there was no internet. A remote kind of TTRPG where they actually really just played by post, played by mail. But eventually it evolved into play by forums where people just play D&D on forums, and it's usually geared toward people that are abroad or people that can't get together for TTRPG sessions, or people that can't get on at the same time. People with different time zones and different schedules and everything. They could actually play by post, play by forums, and play by chat to actually play TTRPGs at their own pace in their own time. So I feel like that would probably be the best thing right now, at least for the community, because everyone's actually in so many different time zones and so many different places with different schedules and different responsibilities and real world responsibilities, to the point that it would end up being very very difficult to organize um, organize like full-fledged TTRPG sessions. So in order to cater to that need for remote play, for to match different time zones, I feel like that would probably be the best for almost the for now, where we just kind of emulate a play-by-post kind of game on Discord. People actually do that, but it's not as popular as playing TTRPGs in real life. But nonetheless, I digress. We will also have we will also have online one shots as well, which we're doing with different typos product like that. So all of this is to kind of initiate people into TTRPGs and how they work, and also to gather data on what people would like to see with TTRPGs coming into the NFT sphere, right? So we would use this data to we would kind of implement this data in the tabletop game that we're working on. But for those of you that don't know, the tabletop game that we're working on is kind of pictographic TTRPG infrastructure that where we provide the board and the assets and tools for crafting a TTRPG game with custom assets and custom rules. We will actually post up the website pretty soon once I'm done with the sprites and everything, the artwork for the website and the UI and UX as well. I would say around one or 2 weeks, so that would be a resource page as well. So yeah, and that would be it for the updates on my side.
Thank you, Stellaris. Let's see. We had nothing more on the calendar. Looks like the votes are still coming in on standard combos. Straw poll, if you want to go in there. In the general chat, there's a link to a straw poll. It looks like lowercase more with parentheses is winning 5-2. What else? Oh, we should probably plug again OpenQuill. I don't know how many weeks, Banners, how many weeks left are there left in that? Oh, it closes next week. On the 24th. Okay.
But as soon as it does, round 2 starts. We haven't figured out all the details for round 2, but for anyone that doesn't finish their work for round 1, they won't be disadvantaged by that. They can post it into round 2, and the thing is just going to keep on turning. Gotcha.
Awesome. In round 1, we're, I think, what are there, 14 or 15 entries, I think, so far?
I haven't counted in a couple days, but I think I just read something from Raul, who's got a 3rd chapter coming up, and I think that's like 15 or 16.
Awesome. Yeah, anyone who hasn't checked those out yet, we're kind of flooding Loot Talk with a bunch of stories, which is awesome. Go check it out. What else? See, dude.
Just to chime in there.
What's up, dude?
Let me just chime in on OpenQuill. I just have to call out how impressed I am with this community showing up for it. Obviously, the idea of world building revolves so much around characters and stories and conflicts, and we've been spending tons of time on like the foundational levels of the places and the things and the realms and the caverns and the games. but seeing some of the stories and the characters come to life is just like, for me, heartwarming. It's so awesome to see it. So if you haven't read it yet, go to Loot Talk. The goal is to publish and edit and curate this into an compendium of short stories and then publish it as a real book. But even in its current form, draft form on Loot Talk, as a loot geek who's been spending time on this, and you guys obviously have all been spending time here too, there's something special that kind of unlocks in your brain once you start seeing characters with names and stories and conflicts and internal struggles and character development. To me, it just feels magical. So to everybody who's participated so far, amazing. And if you're interested in that, it's a wide open canvas. Nobody needs to be a professional writer. If you are, cool. But it's wide open to everybody. So jump in. Like Banner said, the goal here is to compile a compendium of short stories over time. So round one is just the kickoff. And we've got, like we said, 15, 16 stories in the kickoff. Those stories will be drafts that can get updated and edited and curated over time. And round two will start right as round one ends. So invitation's open, and then we'll sort of keep it open until we all feel like we've achieved the goal for the first ever loot book. Like we said, Wag Wab. We're going to write a book together, and seeing this first set of stories is just magical.
Yeah, +1. I think someone had written somewhere like, reading these stories was like kind of the first time they actually could like imagine, like really, really imagine themselves like in a loot world or in a loot universe. And, over the course, gosh, we're at like 9 months now since Loot launched. There's been a lot of places, a lot of things, some characters, but really the stories, like this, I think the stories are kind of what's going to accelerate Loot. It's kind of the next level. It's the stories, it's the compelling characters. It's the thing that's going to sort of break out to a broader audience and bring more people in. Either people that have been following Loot, kind of on the edges, or even beyond. I think the stories are the thing. The stories, compelling, relatable characters. These are the things that people are going to connect to. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about what Open Quill's doing. Tim Shell shared a little bit last week about what Divine is up to, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe we can dedicate one of these calls to really spotlight, that project that's coming pretty soon. But that is a story first project, really dedicated to championing stories and storytellers, and really trying to start populating the Lootverse with characters and character arcs and villains and the rest. So more to come on that, but all this to say, yeah, I'm just so excited. We're really getting into the storytelling now.
Hey, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, also, Hyperloot, I'm part of that community. They also just released their sort of tabletop card game. So speaking about, I wasn't even aware of the whole post by play. Like that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's like, my dad played fantasy baseball back in the day. You get to mail like your rosters to people, so that's pretty wild. They play D&D that way as well. But anyway, I digress. But Hyperloot, they just released 2 competitions. So one is you can download all their assets that they've created cards of, and you can create your own game, and they're having a competition around that, which has rewards. I think it's like sometime in June when they're going to make they're going to vote on the winners for that. And then they also have an art contest for like designing the back of the cards as well. So in true CCO fashion, they're basically saying, here are our cards, make whatever games you want, post them or use them however you want to. So just kind of a heads up to check that out if you're interested in Hyperloop stuff.
question about the open core. Okay. Um, so would we be able to upload music to audio pieces anytime soon? Because I cannot upload any audio pieces. I'm a musician as well, so I did actually start making like bookings for it, but then I realized you couldn't actually upload audio onto it, so I didn't actually bother with that. But in the future, would that be possible?
Short answer is yes, absolutely. Loot Talk is more of just a staging area, but the goal here is to be able to upload all this content to the Realm Bibliopedia soon, once that's launched and live. And I don't know if that's going to have the ability for multimedia on day one, but over time it definitely will. So yeah, the goal here is to publish this as a final book, so in an actual physical book that you can hold in your hand. Obviously this is going to be audio, but it'll be accompanied with a digital version, and we should definitely have all sorts of multimedia, audio, whatever inside of it. I'd say pop into the channel, maybe like the dev channel, and we can chat about like the best way to do that in the interim. But we can do it as simply as just like an Airtable form, maybe, where people can submit content that doesn't fit inside of Loot Talk. I am a little surprised too that like a forum in the year 2022 can't accept a MP3 file. So maybe there's a setting that we can set that allows people to upload files.
Okay. Well, I was thinking of having something like, a range of customer or something similar from something similar to that. Especially how they adapted that in Game of Thrones with the red wedding and everything. So I was thinking of similar to that vibe.
May I ask a question if nobody else has anything else?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there a version of Loot or M-Loot? I'm not too familiar with all the variances, where the assets can be individually called out, like a sword, as opposed to like the whole bag at a time.
You could do that with the bag itself.
Check out Loot Mart.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Loot Mart.
But it's dead. It's a dead project. But it tried to.
Well, it depends on the context you're looking for.
Yeah, the context is that
if it's trying to pull from a contract, the magic of the loot contract itself is that you can individually pull the individual items from the loot contract per bag ID. But yeah, tell us the context, and then maybe somebody can help direct.
well, the context is that we have a platform where users are just doing stuff across apps and games, and they're using like not one of one, but singular artifacts and items right now across different games. So I was just wondering if there's a way to say in those items gain XP and are uniquely identifiable and such. So I was just wondering if there's a way to do that with the loot assets, basically.
Yeah, and you could just you could write a contract that interacts with loot and can give experience to those bags or to the items themselves.
Thank you. Sorry if that was a new question, but I just popped in. And,
no, that's a really exciting question to ask. And that honestly speaks to like the fundamental purpose of loot in a lot of ways, and like why there continues to be so much breathless excitement about what loot means and how it was sort of one of the first contracts to ever do that. All the items are composable on chain, and all of the individual items inside every individual bag can be pulled by a contract. And so you can say, given bag ID 234 and slot 6, which is waste or whatever, give me the item back. And you can do that all composably straight from the contract without any reliance on any external databases or APIs. or hosting anywhere. So yeah, what you're asking really speaks to like the heart of Loot.
Okay, I thought there must be something like that. I just didn't see it right off the bat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's follow that question up in the dev channel too. There's a builders creators channel, and so as you put hands on keyboard or try to just spec something out, the whole community here can definitely help.
Thank you.
Hey, Heron, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you guys launched something obviously awesome from the Hyperloot side last week. If you want to speak or even just share in general chat, somebody else can share it. We touched on it briefly a few minutes ago, but I just wanted to give you the mic if you want it. No pressure, no worries, but just all hail Hyperloot for huge fans.
Yeah, I was just telling them in that channel actually that before they launched that card game, I was playing a similar game with my son. My son's 8 years old, and he's getting into like being different characters. And I showed him actually Hyperloop, and so now we do this thing where like just so that he's not just playing a card game, he has to do like exercises to get like certain weapons or like helmets or shoes or whatnot. So I think it's pretty interesting in terms of what they're doing in regards to kind of this card game and seeing what people are going to sort of, come up with.
I didn't come prepared to share anything, but I kind of do want to give like a quick update on the world of Rift and experience. Yesterday, Code Monkey, I just shared this in general, that he won the first Rift quest, which was essentially turning in a bunch of mana for mana crystals, and you get a loot bag. There's also a blip knot up for grabs. And he donated to OpenQuill. That was really inspirational. So as far as like the Rift goes, right now we're going through a storyboarding process to define kind of the actual story of Rift and how it interplays with experience, which is the life force that like kind of connects the world. It's going to be really exciting, and I think from a conceptual standpoint, it's really helpful to sort of kind of grok what the Rift is and what experience is, and how mana crystals interplay with that. I'm really excited to share that when it comes out. And then on the experience standpoint, we're also working on hyper experience, which is essentially like the next evolution of Rift experience, which is to go beyond loot itself. So it's starting to connect the world with loot, with other CC0 and other projects as well. So like kind of actually giving you the ability to bring in these characters that you identify with into different worlds and getting experience for it. And the big thing that is super important for that contract that is going to come out is it's all permissionless from a creator standpoint. So whereas the Rift experience system right now, if you want to give experience to a bag, you kind of have to like come through us and get allowed to do that. This next evolution is set up in such a way that anyone can just build on top of it. So that's going to be really exciting.
Hyper experience. I love it. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I don't have anything else. If nobody else has any questions or anything, we can call it a week. Tim, Shell, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just inspired every week. I think next week, Andrew, you and I can go kind of around the horn and maybe reach out to some of the projects and just get some stuff scheduled onto the agenda so that this is a more
Yeah, for sure.
dedicated use of time. But yeah, it's really good to see everybody, GM or GN, and it's just fun to get together every week with y'all.